What's going on, guys? Let's talk about our sponsor, Regenerate Coffee. They have a new coffee available. It has different flavor notes. It's from a different farm in Colombia. To me personally, it kind of gives me the sense of like tobacco and smoke. But either way, it tastes fantastic. You can use code ATCPOD10 to order your bag of the best coffee in South Florida. Hands down, and help support a discipleship ministry that's creating lifelong disciples for Christ, and you'll help support us here at Against the Current podcast as well. Remember, ATC Pod 10 to get 10% off and support us here on the show. Grab Forged by Fire. It's the first book in the Through the Flames trilogy. Listen, if you love books like Chronicles of Narnia or Lord of the Rings, you're going to love Forged by Fire. Inspired by the quote, "All it takes for evil to win is for good men to do nothing." Forged by Fire tells the story of Arthur as he saves his family from the forces of evil. Order your copy today. And lastly, check out our merch store. We have shirts, hats, sweaters, even a coffee mug. So we have the journal over there as well. So check out the merch shop and rep ATC Pod wherever you go. The link for all three of these is in the description below. Enjoy the episode. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Against the Current podcast. My name is Rudy Garcia. We're very excited for this episode. We have a special guest. He has found success in the realm of sports, in the realm of business, and now he is finding success in his walk with God. So today's conversation, we're talking to someone that has come to Christ, having a lot. So it's a very interesting conversation for us men out there, providers, protectors, and priests, to kind of get an inside scoop into, you pray for something and you get it, and how do you live life as a Christian when you get what you prayed for? Today's episode, we're talking to Ignacio Lancuba from Pursuing Faith. We're super professionals.
I like the team. The team.
Okay, so I hope that's getting it good, but
yeah, it should.
It is what it is. Say what you were just saying. Can't complain.
No, that I'm going through this issue with the car.
Yeah.
And I had to spend a bunch of money on it.
Right.
But, even though it's annoying, I learned that you can't complain about things that are a product from abundance,
Yeah.
So it's like you have this luxury car that you dream of, and then something goes wrong with the car, and they tell you that you have to pay X amount of dollars to fix it. And most people are complaining, and they are like, oh, this and that. And the truth is that I came to the realization is that I should be grateful that I can actually afford the repair, and that I can actually have the car that I wanted. Even though that now I want to get rid of it, it's just like you can't be ungrateful for abundance, but at the same time want abundance. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like we all want nice things, but we don't actually think that, and this is a lesson that I'm learning through this process, is like, what's the aggregated cost of having nice things,
Right.
Is that aggregated cost worth it, the long run, Is it worth it for you to have a car that originally me and my wife, we didn't even buy it for our personal joy.
Right.
Like, it's the personal joy it was temporary.
Yeah.
It was more so for like what other people will say about us having that car. And now that you have the car and you are driving it and you're enjoying it, now you're complaining about the loan payment. You're complaining about the insurance. You're complaining about, and it's like, then if you're complaining and you're constantly in that complaining mentality, then what's the point? Like
why have things?
Correct.
Why even want things?
Correct.
And so it's cool that you said, because you said you got the car originally focused on like what other people would.
Mm-hmm.
How did that, or what changed that now you want to get rid of it? Now, because we were talking, you wanted to get rid of it before this issue happened.
Yeah, of course.
So
in fact, like it was funny because the issue. So we were making our plans. Like this is sometimes I heard this quote many times that it says that God has the biggest sense of humor. You know, we are making our own plans on, we're going to get rid of the car, and we don't need this car no more. And then we go through the whole process, and then a bunch of problems come out on the car. And I go to pick up the car from service, and the car stops starting, like it doesn't start. So now I'm faced with all these different quotes on how much it's going to cost me. And what changed in my life, and you and I spoke this a lot in our personal relationship, but what changed in my life was coming to Christ, you know, like finding Christ in a very, I wouldn't say dark time in my life, because compared to other people's dark times, it was not really dark, but it was a pretty, for who I was, for how deep I was in the world, it was a very dark time in my life, and that's how I came to Christ. And after giving my life to Christ, you start, I don't know, like, I don't want to say I don't care about nice things, because that would be a lie. I think that we all, to an extent, want to have nice things, you know, and I've heard a lot of Christians talking about, like, you know, you shouldn't, we shouldn't seek nice things and all that stuff. But at the same time, God created everything. God created nice things. So us wanting nice things is not the problem. The problem was in my life that I would make these nice things my identity, and I would make them my God.
Right.
You know? So I would say that a lot of things in my life were done and acquired to get attention from the world. You know? Like, even going into my relationship with my wife, like, I met my wife without us being Christians, and, you know, the first 6 months of our relationship, I ball out with her. Like, you know, I was buying her everything and anything that I could buy her, just to make an impression, you know. And honestly, God's very gracious, because even when I didn't know him, he still paved the way in my life, because my wife turned out to be a woman of God that she showed me many, many times throughout our relationship that she was not with me for any material things that I could bring to the table. And I didn't believe that, you know. Like, at the beginning, I was like, no, that's never going to be. Like, we live in Miami. You know, I was around people that they would always say, like, oh, if you cannot provide a good life for your woman, she's not going to be with you. She's going to find the next guy. So I was always so, like, driven by, like, oh, I'm going to show you, like, you can, you know, that I'm the guy.
Almost like guys from, like, the, like, I guess now they'd be called the Red Pill community.
Yeah.
Kind of,
yes.
Now, I do want to rewind a little bit.
Okay.
Because I want to give what you're saying some context. Because you're talking about going through dark times, but even in our own personal relationship, you've always been really humble in the sense of, like, in your mind, you understand that my tough time compared to, like, other people's tough times are could be interesting, but they're your tough times, right? So we both were going through an interesting period, a rough time in life compared, but every time we'd sit down and talk, I almost felt like you didn't want to tell me some of your hard stuff. Because, I mean, I talked about it here. I went 5 months without a job, racking up credit card debt to be able to, you know, help my family and stuff. And you were in a position where, in your mind, you were like, I can't really confide in this guy about anything. And I get it. So I think you've always been conscious. You've always been humble in that sense. But let's go from the beginning. Like, because you have found success in the business side and in your, not business. I guess the most blunt way to say it is you found monetary success.
Yeah, I was very blessed.
Yeah,
financially, even from, like, my family, like my direct family, like my parents did really well for themselves and provide me, like, an amazing life, which I didn't realize, like, the success of my parents until actually I was pretty older, like around 15, 16, because prior to that, my dad being a workaholic, like he would not indulge in anything.
Yeah.
And it was at the time of 15, 16 years old that my mom actually took the initiative, and she started like making plans with like for the family, like going to trips and traveling. And in South America, it's wealth is different than in America. Like wealth in South America is more like more calm, I would say. It's not about like,
it's not as loud.
Yeah, it's not loud, but you could see like, I don't know, I would go out of the country once a year to all-inclusive resorts in the Caribbean and come to the US and be able to buy pretty much anything that I wanted.
Right.
And I started having that taste, and then that gave me the opportunity to be able to pursue my dream that was being a professional rugby player.
So let's get into there, because that's really where you found, that was like your first, where you found like your
my first success. Yes.
Right. So what age did you start playing rugby?
So I started playing rugby actually at 4 years old at school. So I went to a British school.
You went to a British school? In Argentina?
In Argentina.
Okay.
That's where I learned to speak English, play rugby. And then growing up, I was always a chubby kid.
Okay.
So I was not good at soccer or football for us.
Okay.
I was not good at like gymnastics or
soccer.
athletics. Yes.
So soccer. The right
okay,
way.
Soccer. I mean, I honestly, I was so bad that I don't even care defending the name. Like, I literally like, it was something that they would say soccer and I would be like, no, I don't want to play it.
You don't know
how bad I was.
An Argentinian that doesn't want to play soccer?
Yeah, it was pretty
wild.
It was pretty weird.
Yeah.
Because like that was kind of the sport of choice for kids. Even chubby kids, like they would try to play soccer,
Yeah.
But I was really bad. Like my coordination was terrible. So I out of the gate I said no to that. I tried, martial arts, like all these things that parents, tennis, everything.
Right.
And when I turned 9 years old, we started playing rugby like matches against other schools.
Okay.
So in the first match that we played, because I was on the bigger side, I grabbed the ball and I ran over people, and I was like, yeah, this is for me.
Okay.
And that's how I fell in love with rugby. And I started playing rugby in school, and then at 17, I actually started like my cousin, who to me he was like a brother. I consider him like a brother to this day. He's 9 years older than me, but like my house was literally around the corner from his house. So I would spend a lot of time with him. And I saw, while I was growing up and I was falling in love with the game of rugby, I saw him going through all like the national teams in Argentina playing rugby and everything. And finally I saw his career end due to an injury.
Okay.
And because he was like my idol,
right,
I wanted to be like him. So that kind of like put like a chip in my shoulder. I was like, okay, if my cousin made it to this national team, I had to make it to this national team.
Right.
So I started working out, and then at 17, I got dropped from the pre-selection of under 18 for the under 18 Argentina team.
Okay.
And I got dropped because even though I was big, I was kind of small, because I was not still exercising enough and all these different things. So I remember that time, that was a very painful moment in my life. And I was having dinner with friends, and we were watching actually the under 18 World Cup on TV. So all the kids that were with me that made it to the team, they were playing and I was not playing.
Right.
I was eating like there, and I was watching the game, and I was like, I told my friends, next year I'm going to be there. They all laugh. But then next year I was there.
He was there, yeah.
So that was my first like taste to success in achieving something by my own means and my own standards,
Yeah.
And that was something that I was lacking, because, as I said, growing up in the house that I grew up, like life was pretty much organized for me.
Yeah.
Like everything was sorted out. So being able to achieve that by myself and having a taste of my own hard work and dedication into something that I truly love was great. And then fast forward, like I went to play that next year World Cup. Then I played for the senior team. I started I literally actually surpassed my cousin on national team selections and different things like that. And then I ended up getting an offer to go and play rugby in the UK.
In the UK, so like professional
Rugby in the UK, which that's another interesting part because when I was working with an agent, which again, agents are sharks.
I was gonna ask you about the
agents are sharks in pretty much all the industries, and he signed me up, and then he started looking for teams for me. He found this team, and then again, rugby was my world. So I was not letting my parents into the world of rugby because I wanted to kind of prove not only them, but everybody else that knew me that, hey, I'm doing this on my own. I don't need my parents for this. Because until that point, pretty much, again, like growing up in a wealthy household, like people from the outside would always look in and be like, yeah, you are where you're at because of your parents, or your parents facilitate you these. So at that point, I was not letting my parents in.
Right.
My agent told me like, yeah, they're making you a great offer. You're going to be making £20,000 a month. It's going to be great, this and that. So he sent me a contract.
I'd get into rugby.
Yeah, like, it sounded great. So he sent me the contract. I signed it without even reading it.
Read your contracts.
Yes, read your contracts, 100%.
It ended up being, your agent told you $20,000 a month, and it ended up being
$20,000 a year. So I was making around, like, in dollars, it was like $750 a month, something like that.
Okay, that's
or $800 a month, and it was very tough because when I got there, and I find out that actually a month in, but when I got there, my house was not ready, so they put me into the facility where youth players were staying. You know,
while you were on a professional team.
While I was on the first team, they put me with youth players. The place was horrible, like literally like terrible. And again, me coming from a fancy lifestyle, going into that, like maybe it was not that terrible, but to me it looked like terrible. So calling my mother every night, telling her like, I want to go back home, crying, I want to go back home, I can't be here. And for the first time, my mom told me, no, that's what you wanted. Now you're part of the real world. You're going to stay. You're going to figure it out.
It was probably the best thing she could have done for you.
That was the best thing that she did for me.
Yeah.
I was 19 years old. And if it wasn't for her talking to me every night, I would have probably quit. But I pushed through. Yeah. I played that year. And then things changed for me the second year. They completely changed because after the first year, I fired my agent. I was able to renegotiate my contract. It was actually real money. So I was able to get my own apartment and start growing from there.
And then, so in England, I guess, what was your favorite part of living in England? Where did you live? And what was your favorite part?
I lived, the first team that I was in, it was in Jersey. It's an island between the UK and France. It's a very small island, but I loved it there. Summer was amazing. The only thing that I didn't like there about is that everything would close like at 7:30. Nothing was open.
Small town.
It's a very small town. Like you could literally go around the whole island in that day. Like
really?
4 hours, you are around the whole island. So like what I like about that, which it was like, there was a lot of things to do during the day, from Monday to Saturday.
Right.
But at 7:30,
everything was closed.
And then Sundays, everything was
nothing
dead,
open.
Nothing open. So it was like tough for me.
I mean, tough for you at that age because you told me that now at 30 with two kids.
No, it's still tough.
It's still tough.
It's still tough. You don't have like even with kids, like other than you going to the beach or bowling at the time. I don't know if that place still exists, but those were the two main activities that you could do with kids. Like it was like literally like
there's no options.
It's an elderly place more than a family place.
Yeah.
I actually became really good friends with like a restaurant owner that he owned multiple restaurants there. So the food part, I loved it because I would eat like good food every time that I would want to go out. I would eat good food, and pretty much most of the time he would cover my bill. So that's
nice.
That was nice. And then the other part too is like, as you know, I used to be married before.
Yes.
I'm married now with my
current wife,
lifetime wife.
Yes.
But I was on a previous relationship before, and at that point in that place, I was not married, but that was kind of the first time that I misinterpreted what marriage means in life, you know? Well, that was the first and only time that I misinterpreted what marriage actually means. But I was with my partner at the time there, and that made life a little bit easier. But still, it was no good. And then I moved to London after that, which that changed things a lot for me financially and even like being in the city and everything. And in London, like I like it, but it's not a place that, I said this all the time, it's not a place that I would live in the UK. You know, I would not live in London. I would not live in England. It's just, I don't know. To me, it has this kind of like depressing, when you live there. I'm not talking about when you go to visit in vacation, it's amazing. Like, you know, you go to central London, you are there, like the lights. It's a different mentality when you are as a tourist there. But when you are living there, it's like here, you know. People come to Miami and they're like, oh, I love Miami. We live in Miami. And it's like, yeah, we love Miami, but we're not doing the stuff that people do here when they come on vacation. It's too expensive. And also, like, you get tired too, you know. Like, I enjoy being at my house, you know. I don't like going to South Beach, you know. If I'm going to the beach, I go somewhere else, you know. It's different. So London to live, the UK to live I found that it's a very depressing place, you know. I enjoyed it because my work was outdoors, so I was able to have sunlight in my day. But then people that worked in offices, I always tell this story, like in winter, they would get into the office at 8:30 a.m. and it was dark. Wow. And they would leave the office at 5 p.m. and it was dark.
They never saw the sun.
So it's like, and it would go dark at 3 p.m. So from 3 to 5 that they're in the office, there's still no sunlight. So it's like, it was pretty rough, you know. And then culture-wise, it's very different.
Very different.
It's very different. Like, we're more like Latinos, we're more like family-orientated. Like, we like to hang out. They like to hang out, but if it's to drink, you know. And when you get drunk, and they get drunk to build relationships, but then you find out that, I don't know, I would ask them, they would make fun of me because one of the things that I always do is like, I would say hi, and then I would ask, how are you doing? You know, and they were like, good. And I'm like, no, but real, how are you doing? And they would look at me like, kind of like in a weird way, telling me like, why do you care? You know, what do you care? Like, why do you care to know how I'm doing? And in our culture, it's very normal, you know, like you care about people, you want to ask them how they're doing. So I wouldn't necessarily go back there.
No.
Like, I would go to visit. I would like to take my family to show them like the facility of the team that I play, like a rugby match and different things like that. But I wouldn't, if they offer me a job, I wouldn't take it. No.
Let me ask you something. So you were playing professionally in England. How did you end up in America? You came from England straight to South Florida, or how was that? What happened that made, because you're relatively young. You're like in your 30s. There are rugby players that are still 30. So what happened?
I plan again, making plans, and then God having different plans for our lives. I was planning on playing rugby until I was 37, 38 years old. So I would still be playing rugby. I'm 32. But then on my last year in 2017, I got a very bad injury. I got concussion, and it was not a normal concussion. Like, I could not be like in the sunlight, like I could not take lighting. Like, my head would hurt, and it was like a 6-month process, you know, that to get me back to a place where I could potentially play rugby again. But the doctors told me, like, look, you could play, but if you get hit again, like, we don't know what could happen, you know. And I played rugby very aggressive. Like, I was an aggressive person inside the field, and I knew that there was no way for me to play rugby in a way.
At the same level that got you there.
Yeah, like, there was not going to be no way that I was not going to get hit again on the head, even though that was my first time getting hit bad in the head. But I knew, like, look, if I go back into the field, I'm going to start thinking like, oh, I can't get hit on the head, so that's going to affect how I play.
Yeah.
And I had other aspirations for my life too.
Yeah.
So I was like, look, I'm not going to play no more. I negotiated. There was a change in the head coach in the team as well. The head coach was a very nationalist person, and he only wanted like British players in the team, so he didn't like me much. So long story short, I negotiated like an exit of my contract with the team.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. And then with that, I told my parents, like, look, I'm not going back to Argentina. I've been living outside of Argentina at that time. It was like 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Argentina was going through like, not communism, but like the president.
But very close.
Yeah, it was very
Very close.
And I was like, I don't want to live there, insecurity and all these different things. So I want to go to Miami.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching this show, secular show called Ballers.
The one with the Rock.
Yeah, Dwayne Johnson. So that show kind of like, it was like, hey, retired athlete, Miami. Yeah, that's what I want to do. So that's why Miami, that was one of the reasons why Miami came into my head. The other reason was like, I used to come here to Miami when I was 14, 15 years old, and I always loved it.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I want to go to Miami. And then I moved here. And the way I moved here was by setting up an office for my family business in Argentina.
Okay.
Where we would like start the business and we would sell the stuff that we produce in Argentina here in the US.
Okay.
So that's how I got here.
To kind of come back a little bit, because we've talked about the like even in our own personal relationship, we've talked about the injury, the retirement, early retirement, stuff like that. How did you like? I guess how did you feel? Like when you heard the news, the doctor tell you what he told you, and then you coming to the realization, shoot, I gotta retire.
So it was a long process because remember, I was not playing for 6 months.
Yeah.
So during those 6 months, the first 2 months, they were like literally gone because it was all my hopes that, I'm going to be back on the field next month. So the first 2 months, I didn't register that much. But starting the third month that I was still not able to run.
Wow. You weren't able to run? Like the doctors didn't let you?
No, because every time, I would do tests every day pretty much. Like the first month I would not leave my house. The second month I was able to start going outside and getting light in my eyes.
And not having a migraine?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And then at that point, the testing, when you have a concussion, for people, maybe somebody wants to know, is the testing is like literally putting you in situations that are not the same, but they are kind of similar to what you're going to be at back when you're playing. So they would put me on the treadmill and we would start walking, first incline. Once you break that, now jogging. Now, so it's like slow progress, but I was not able to move forward. Like every time that they would make me jog, I would lose my, how do you say it in English?
Say it in Spanish.
Equilibrio.
Your equilibrium.
Yeah, equilibrium. So I can't pronounce that.
That was an SAT word is what that was.
Thank you. Yeah. Can you spell that?
No. I can't even give you the exact definition, but I know it's something like that.
Something like that. So like I would lose that and sometimes I would even throw up. So it was really bad. So starting month 3, that was when I was like, okay, what am I going to do? Because if I really can't play rugby again, because another thing is like in rugby contracts, you have a clause that if you can't play for the team, in the NFL, they can cut you.
Yeah.
In rugby, they can't cut you for an injury, but there's a clause that it says that if for 6 consecutive months
you
can't play, the team can fire you. And of course, when they fire you, they have to pay you and they have to honor certain things, but it's always less than what you have agreed on.
Right.
So 3 months come in, that's when the change of head coach comes. And, I started having this little beef with the new head coach. And that was the point that I was like, okay, what am I going to do? Because I need to make money. I need to provide for, my partner at the time. She didn't work. So I was like, I need to provide for us.
Yeah.
And I was making good money then, so I was like, what can I do that is going to replace my income? Like right now I'm making I always tell people this, and I don't want to get too sidetracked, but when I hear athletes here in TV that they are talking about like, oh, I'm more than an athlete and this and that, I'm like, bro, why do you lie to people? athlete life is so easy, guys. I would preseason was tough because I would have to work out and train like 3-4 times a day and have maybe one day off in the week.
Yeah.
But then when you're in season, that you are playing every weekend, you practice. You have a full day on Monday, full day Tuesday, free Wednesday, half day Thursday, free day Friday, play Saturday, free day Sunday.
Off on Sunday.
Like it's like why you hear these people in the TV like talking like, oh, pretty much borderline slavery, And
right.
You're like, bro, what are you talking about? But going back to my story, I was like, I need to figure something out. And, I started thinking about all the different options, like traditional businesses because of my family, So I started looking at coffee shops. I love coffee. So coffee shops,
Thank you.
I don't know, any type of brick and mortar businesses. But then the other part that I have is like, okay, if I start a brick and mortar business right now, I technically can do it because brick and mortar businesses require a lot of time from me.
Yeah.
And I don't have a lot of time. Like I have to go to the team facility to recover. Like I can't be thinking about recovering and at the same time be thinking about, this business needs to make some money,
Yep.
So I was shopping online on Amazon, and that's when I discovered the e-commerce world.
Yeah.
And I started realizing that a lot of the things, and at that time was way more obvious than now.
Yeah.
Because Amazon was not so deep into FBA, which FBA is fulfilled by Amazon. Like Amazon didn't have the delivery system that it has today. So back in the day, it was all through UPS, FedEx, like the postal office or whatever. And it was way more obvious to see that when you're buying a product, you are actually not buying it from Amazon. So I started looking at that and I was like, what is this? And then I realized that most things that I was buying on Amazon, they were all from businesses that they were using Amazon to sell their product.
As a storefront.
Correct. And that's how I kind of like said to myself, okay, this might be it because I can do this from home. I buy the product, I send it to Amazon.
Yeah.
They can handle the rest. So that's how I got into like a little bit of e-commerce in the first place.
In the first place. So you went from being a professional athlete, you had to retire, moved to Miami, and you said the way you moved over was to set up an office with family business.
Yeah.
But even right now, am I safe to assume that like your main, I guess, source of income is Amazon?
Yes.
E-commerce?
Yeah. Like when I came in,
the reason I'm asking so much about this is because I'm building to something. The whole point of the podcast is being a provider, a protector, and a priest.
You can ask.
And so one of them being a provider is being wise with your money, right? Mm-hmm. And as Christians and like us here, we don't, and I know you do too, we don't believe in anything wrong with seeking financial and business success. It's where you put your heart. So that's why I'm asking so much about that side of the world, because if in any way your story can help or give somebody an idea, someone like me, or I was in a position where, man, I need to provide for my family and stuff like that, but I want to find success in something, that it's possible. So your main source of income, even today, would be Amazon.
Yes, okay. Even today it would be Amazon. So I work in I work that family business office here from 2017 to 2019.
Okay.
And in that process, around 2018, I started getting back into the Amazon game here in America because I was in the Amazon game in the UK. I needed to get back in America because like
and it's different.
It's different because like when you're selling on Amazon in the UK, you have your product on the UK. So you have like on Amazon warehouses in the UK, like facilities there. When you are in America, like you have to have it here. It's a different marketplace too. It's two different, like it's the same company, but it's two different companies.
Right.
So I started learning how to do it here, because at the time I was drop shipping too. So I had to learn how to drop ship here in America. And through that process, I got into a dark time in my life because that's kind of what took me to found the Lord in my life, that I got so deep into the Amazon business that I went ahead to partner up with people in my life that they are not per se bad people. You know, they are. I actually pray for them till this day because I don't think that they are bad. We were just very, very worldly people.
Yeah, that's not in Christ. Yeah.
And we started a business that the partnership started because I was selling on Amazon and I bought a car from one of them. He was a car broker. I bought a car from them. And then in one of the conversations that started, they were talking about a guy that was selling Amazon automation services here. And he was charging $20,000 to set you up, and then you would not have to do anything. He would handle everything. And they were thinking about doing it. And I was like, look, you don't have to pay me $20,000, but I can show you how to do it. And believe me, it's fairly easy. Like you just need a couple hours a day and you can do it. Oh, you would do that? Yes, this and that. So the conversation kind of stay there. And then 2-3 days later, they approach me and they're like, look, I have a lot of contacts in Miami. He knows how to run businesses. And with your knowledge of Amazon, maybe we can partner up and we can start a company and we can do the same thing that this person was doing. We can do it and share it with, with other people. And being from this world, thinking about money, I said yes without even betting anybody, just, I barely knew them.
Yeah.
And we started a relationship. The relationship went well. We made a bunch of money together. But in the process, Amazon started to change. And the things that were allowed prior COVID-19, when COVID-19 happened, they stopped being allowed. Quick example, so we don't dive a lot into technicalities, but drop shipping is literally, I post a product on Amazon that I don't have.
Yeah.
And I can source that product for $2. I'm listing it on Amazon for $5.
Sure.
And when the product sells on Amazon, I turn around and I purchase it from where I'm sourcing it for $2. I pay them, and then they ship the product to the consumer. And we were doing that through Walmart. So we were sourcing our products in Walmart. We were sourcing our products in Home Depot, in all these other retailers that before COVID, and again, I know that this sounds crazy, but the world changed very fast after COVID.
Okay.
So when you think about Walmart, Home Depot, Target, all these different big retail names, they didn't have a e-commerce platform before. They didn't have an e-commerce logistics before. Like what they would do is that you would buy something from Walmart.com and they would give it to UPS or they would give it to FedEx or they would give it to USPS.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Right.
The box would be like a regular box. It was no brand on the box. It was just like, it was literally if you were buying something from a small business, not from Walmart,
Right.
So
their e-commerce was small business.
Correct. So it was great for the Amazon business because Amazon had all this traction. Like people have the Amazon platform on their phones. That's the first place that they go. And we could source literally infinite products from Walmart, Target, and all these different. It was a no-brainer. So prior COVID-19, we were doing amazing. People were happy. They were paying us. They were referring business to us. We were making them money. We were growing. But then when COVID-19 hit, and now one of the biggest policies on Amazon that nobody read until that point is that you can drop ship, but as long as the box that the consumer is receiving does not generate confusion.
Oh, okay.
Meaning, if you buy something on Amazon.com and you receive a box that says Walmart.com, now you're generating confusion. And now the person doesn't know, hold on, I'm buying this from Amazon, but it's coming from Walmart, what's going on? Now the reason Amazon doesn't allow that is because now you're giving the consumer to start thinking, hold on, I bought this on Amazon, I received a Walmart box, let me go to Walmart, it's $5 cheaper.
Right.
I'm returning these right now to Amazon, and I'm going to buy from Walmart.
Yep.
So that's what that policy has been there forever, but until that point, it was not a problem because none of these other retailers were actually shipping with a branding.
Yeah.
COVID hit, everybody started copying Amazon,
right?
And everybody started like branding their boxes so consumers will know where the product was coming from. And that brought a lot of problems to the business.
So it changed the dropshipping business from not having to have any inventory?
It changed the dropshipping business to the point that now you could not use Walmart. So now you have to actually do the legwork to find the products to keep selling on Amazon.
Yeah.
And the issue that I started happening, that was kind of the start of my dark time, was that my partners and I, to one point, we were so driven about the money that we were not focused in investing in how to solve these issues. We would only put band-aids to these issues. And we would always come up with excuses to these issues.
Right. Instead of taking a step back
and investing actually and being like, okay, if this is the issue, the problem is not the model. The problem is that we cannot source products from these people no more. Let me find where I can actually source the product, do the required investments so I can actually deliver for the people that trusted me money to serve them.
Right.
So that's the start of the issues with my partners. We started having differences because at that point, I would call it the Holy Spirit started kind of condemning me, because it didn't feel right in my heart what was going on. And I started thinking about all these different things. But then I got to a point too that I was the only one bringing solutions to the table. And every solution that would come to the table, I would have to do it because I was the one that knew the business. So now I find myself that I'm in a partnership that not only we don't agree with what we want to do as a business, some of us are more focused on money, some of us are more focused on, okay, we have a great business, how do we make it bulletproof for it to last? And that was one issue. But then the second issue is that even when I bring solutions to the table, I would have to be taking all the workload because the other people would not know how to help me.
How to help you fix it.
And do the thing.
And instead of trying to sit down and learn?
Correct. It was all about playing this game of we are big bosses now. We made it to a certain level. I don't have the time to be sitting down and doing office work, which to me, at the time, it makes sense, but at the same time, it didn't make sense because I always have the mentality that, look, if your business needs you, you need to humble yourself and do even the things that you don't want to do.
Isn't it Gary Vee? I think Gary Vee says something along the lines of, dude, it's your business.
Correct.
If there's a problem,
you have to be able to sort it out. And we were not even in the point that, because if you're in the point where you are having the ability to hire C-suite executives that you are paying them a couple $100,000 a year, I understand at that point.
To cover some of those.
I understand at that point, dude, I'm hiring the best of the best. I'm paying them 6-figure salaries. Sort it out.
Right.
I understand that type of mentality, but we were not there.
Right.
We were definitely not there. So it was us, the ones who had to sit down. So fast forward, we started a bunch of arguments, and then in 2020, 2021, I decided to get out of that business. And it was funny because they thought that I was getting out because I didn't want to deal with the issues. But in reality, I got out because I wanted to deal with the issues, but I wanted to deal with the issues the right way, and they were not able to follow me on the right way. So I departed that company. I started my own company. And that company, actually, I re-engineered the whole business where I was at the point that I became the supplier and I became the management company. So now I defeated the dropshipping model, or I thought so, that I defeated the dropshipping model, because now for my clients, nothing changes because they would still only buy the products when they sell it. But for me, everything changes because now
you have to fulfill it.
I have to fulfill it, and I have to have inventory. So now I have to do double the investment to keep my customers happy. And then one of the things that I did is, out of the 200 clients that my old business had, I invited all of them to join my new business for free, which that was a dumb mistake, for free. And I'll explain what it was a dumb mistake, not because I wanted the money, but because when you are running a real business, somebody has, nothing is for free. So me inviting people to join my platform for free.
It was free for them.
It was free for them, but it was going to cost me.
Yeah.
And it actually cost me a lot, to the point that business pretty much bankrupt because we didn't have enough capital to feed the beast. You know, it was such a big infrastructure that it needed so much capital that at the end of the day, trying to do the right thing ended up hurting me financially very, very, very bad. But also I discovered through that process, I met my current partner, you know, who, again, he's one of the people that God put in my life to bring me to him, because my first months working with my partner, he was the one that told me many, many times, like, hey, you should go to my brother's church. You should go to my brother's church.
Yeah, because your partner's Christian.
Yeah.
Your current partner now.
And my brother's church, for him, was Elevate Church.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, maybe I check it out one day. And I would keep. But then also, I realized that the reason my business didn't succeed, it was not because the idea or the intentions were in the wrong place, but it was because that business grew up from anger, and it grew up from trying to prove other people that, hey, I know how to do this. You don't know how to do it. I'm going to do it my way, and I'm going to shove it in your face.
Yeah.
Kind of.
It's almost like, I mean, Gordo, the Bible verse of like, God allows all things to work for the good of those who love him. Bible verse? Really fast? Isn't that in Romans? Isn't that in Romans? You know the one I'm talking about.
No idea.
You have no idea? Google it.
What are you talking about?
That God allows...
Romans 8:28. We know all things work together for good to them that loves God, to them who are
Romans 8:28.
Yeah.
Romans 8:28. And it's you got this success that you wanted, right, with professional sport, and there was, I wouldn't call it failure, but something happened that you couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got a semblance of success in a business, and something happened that you had to leave that. Then you got another amount of success or something, and that was a failure. But if you follow the track, if you wouldn't have gotten a concussion in England playing rugby, would you have ever met your current partner?
Mm-hmm.
If you would have found success with these two partners, would you have ever gone on your own?
Mm-hmm.
And if you would have never gone on your own and done it the way you did, it would have never bankrupted, and you would have never met your current partner, which opened up the space to be a follower of Christ. Now, serendipitous, but God's plan or the route to come to Christ, which is more important than having success in rugby, or having success in this business, or having success in this business.
And you know the funny part of you saying that is that throughout this process, my personal life was very hectic, so throughout this process, I got divorced.
Okay.
And I got divorced in a way that, again, being away from Christ, I got divorced in a way that I just wanted to get divorced, at that point. And I didn't care about anything. And I literally signed a deal with my ex-spouse that literally was giving my life to her, my life earnings to her.
Wow.
Because at that point, I thought that, hey, nobody can stop me. Right. So I signed a deal out of kind of ego, where I was like, yeah, I'll give you these. This is all the money that you're ever going to see. I'm going to go ahead and make more money. This is all you're ever going to get. So I signed that deal. And then throughout my journey, I got into the new age type of religion, and starting to believe that, affirmations and manifestation and all these different things that I kind of believe in, and they were easy to believe for me because until that point, God allowed me that I was not in Him, but He allowed still for me to pretty much obtain everything that I wanted until this point.
Yeah.
Until this point, I was literally, I said to my friends, next year I'm going to be playing there.
Yeah.
Next year I was playing there. I went into business. I said I'm going to be successful. I'm going to make money. I was successful. I make money. And so, like, to me, this manifestation law and all these different things was attractive because,
it seemed like, at the time, it seemed like that's what it
I
was.
experienced this. This is true. You
Yeah.
know? So that kind of started. But then, going back to your point of how God's plan works, is it seems like when I fully immerse into that, until that point I never emerged into that. I would
So
always
new
like
age.
I would always like listen to like self-development stuff, like writing your goals down and all these different things.
Affirmations in the mirror.
Well, I never got to that point.
No?
but,
Okay, good.
but close enough. But doing all those stuff, I have not yet gotten to the extreme of like now, okay, I'm fully immersed into the new age.
Right.
I'm going to retreats. I'm studying like all these beliefs and all these different things. And at the time that I started all these different things, which this could be a topic from a different episode,
Completely different, yeah.
but it started like kind of like the fallout of all my problems. So all the bad things that I'm talking about that we're developing, they kind of seem to catch a bullet train when I started diving into all these things. And that actually, God used that to start putting in my heart and question these things. Because now I would go to the retreats and we would go with my wife. And my wife would tell
With
me
your
like,
current wife now.
with my current wife, yeah. And we would go with Alana and she would be like, why are you always fighting these people? Like, you're here to learn. Why are you always... And I was like, yeah, this doesn't make sense. Do you understand that I've been doing what they're telling me to do?
This is before being a Christian.
Yeah, before being a Christian. I've been doing what they're telling me to do. And my life seems to be going to crap.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm doing what they are telling. I'm talking to the universe positively. I'm meditating 10 minutes every day. I'm doing everything that they're telling, because I'm very, one of the gifts that God gave me is that I'm very disciplined.
Yeah.
So like, I was doing everything, bro. Everything that you can do in the new age, meditating.
If I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this.
You know, and this is not working. So clearly, these people, there's something up with this new age thing. So
I'm sorry, and I hate to interrupt you right now, but I don't know if you guys noticed, this orange light that's supposed to be giving some light back here has been off the whole time.
Yeah.
I know, but it's...
So I'm going to turn it on.
I told Gordo...
I know, I'm turning it
I
on.
told Gordo,
to
but...
save battery, and now
Yeah.
the battery.
Battery's completely full,
There we go.
and it's supposed to be giving some light to this
No,
That's
exactly.
fine.
corner.
That's fine.
Whatever, it is what it is.
That's fine. So,
But you're in the new age.
yes.
So I guess my question is, what was the thing, if there was one thing, that, I guess two questions. What made you decide, hey, let's go visit Elevate? And then what is the one thing that you said, okay, Christianity, God.
So, again, God works in very funny ways, very, very perfect ways.
Yeah.
You know, the person that told me about God, is someone that I admire.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So until that point, you know, going into the new age, and he was not my partner yet. So all the things that I'm listening is from.
So he was your friend before he was your partner.
Yeah, he was.
Okay.
Well, he was somebody that I look up to before he being my partner. I met him in 2018, and he's always been someone that I could actually text him, and he will get back to me.
That's a different conversation.
Yes.
Because a lot of people have people in their lives where they look up to them, but they're never able to establish, oh, now we're partners in something.
Yes, correct.
So that must have been.
But that was like actually genuinely God opening up that door.
Yeah.
Because I can give you that testimony. Like, my partner has never partnered up with anybody outside of his industry.
Right.
And he's never partnered up with anybody the way he's partnered up with me.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'm not saying that I'm nothing special, because I'm not, like, honestly not. And he even
I
said
think you're
that to
pretty
me.
special.
Nah. Like, the point is that God used that person, and God, like, is using me in his life to bring him closer to him too, because he sees how dedicated I am to getting to know more about the Lord,
Yeah.
and I share Bible verses with him. Like I actually share a Bible verse with him this morning, and like I try to not bring him back because he's already a Christian before me, but like try to feed that side of his life.
Yeah.
But God used him, somebody that I look up to actually kind of convince me that, hey, see, like if this person that you admire, well, I don't want to use the word admire because again, like it kind of maybe sounds kind of like idolatry, but like
respect.
You respect.
Yeah.
If somebody that you respect is telling you, hey, you need to find God.
Yeah.
Maybe you should listen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at that point, as I said, my life was so teared down, like that I was like, okay, I don't have nothing to do.
I mean, might as well, yeah.
And that's how God brought me to him. And the two things work together. Like the New Age thing worked together because the time that he would tell me that you need to go to church, it was at the same time that I was having all these arguments and these fights
New Age, yeah.
with the New Age people and with even my wife, Alana. Like she would like tell me like, oh, why are you going if everything is bad? Like, why are you going? But the truth is that Jesus set me free from the pressure that New Age built in my life. Like there's this hidden pressure that the manifestation and the New Age thing builds in people's life that, if you are manifesting things, quote unquote, if you're visualizing things and those things don't come into play,
you did something wrong.
You are doing something wrong. Yeah. You are like, there's something that you are not doing to get this happening. You're not working hard enough. You are not, if you are visualizing yourself with a six pack, or you're not exercising enough, you're not dieting enough. Like, there's always this situation like you are not doing enough.
It's funny that you mention it. It's almost similar, and I don't mean to like bash on another part of the Christian world, but what you're mentioning, I grew up in a very Hispanic Pentecostal church, and a lot of the times that's the same mentality, but their thing is you don't have enough faith, right? So if you're praying for someone's healing and they don't get healed, you don't have enough faith. If you're praying to God, let me speak in tongues, and it doesn't happen, you don't have enough faith. So, and that's a big complaint that I've seen. It's a kind of a little parentheses.
No,
that's a big thing when it comes to like in church world, where it's a danger of the New Age, since the vocabulary is like that. A lot of that New Age mentality has been bleeding into the Pentecostal denomination,
especially into the prosperity gospel.
Yeah.
And like, to me, it was like coming to Christ was so. It took a lot of weight from my shoulders. Like it took a lot of weight from my shoulders, and realizing like, look, Lord, I'm not in control of anything in my life, and I'm just going to go out every day. Keep making my prayers, keep making my requests, but go out every day, like just to do my best. And you take care of everything else.
Something that's helped me is there's a verse in the Bible that talks about like whatever you do it for the glory of God, and like do it as unto the Lord. Like if you're working, don't do it as if you're working for your boss or for your business to stay alive. You're doing it unto like as a worship to God. All of the entire conversation we just had, we went through your successes and your failures, and ultimately a semblance of success that you have as a build up to here, right? You're Christian. How do you consolidate? How do you're very, 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 very financially successful on one hand, but now you're a Christian, and that there's certain principles at being a Christian. How do you consolidate that drive to keep working? But I mean, you make a lot of money. You have a lot of stuff. You don't just make a lot of money. You have stuff. You have success that a lot of people wish they had. But there are some Christians that believe that
having money is evil.
Right. Or when you have it, It doesn't matter how it doesn't matter how generous you are. There's somebody that's going to complain and be like, nobody can be more generous. How do you? But then in your heart, how is there any type of struggle where you're like, crap, I have a lot. Do you ever feel like you're not doing enough on the Christian side of it? Where is your internal struggle being a Christian that's called to be generous and humble and blah blah blah, which you are, but then you also see at least your past and your present where it's like a lot.
So
where you have plenty.
So
or abundance, I think is the word I'd say.
Definitely for a period of my time, though, especially at the beginning of my Christian faith, there was a lot of guilt because at the beginning of my Christian journey, I was praying to God to help me sort out issues, financial issues that I encountered.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I would feel guilty because I was like, how do I dare to ask my Creator to help me sort out these issues? But I have plenty.
Yeah.
Look, like I live in a beautiful home, but I'm praying like, oh Lord, please help me sort out these debt, that I have. But I live in a beautiful home. Like how can I do these things match, So I struggle a lot with that. But then I read the parable of the talents.
Okay.
And then I think it's in Matthew, but then it also repeats in Luke 19, verses 10 to 27, I think. And the reason I quote Luke is because Jesus is there talking about the master gives 10 pounds of silver of gold to his servants, and he tells them to go to take care of them until he comes.
Yeah.
And I think that Jesus is talking to all of us look, the Father gives you talents. Go and multiply them and take care of the kingdom, build the kingdom for the day Jesus comes, you know. So in a way, now the way I see the blessings that I am able to have and the things that I'm working on, I'm working a lot in restructuring my life in the sense of what are my priorities and what things I can cut off from my flesh, in the sense I don't know, a nice expensive car, right now, is that a priority in my life? Not that there's anything wrong with having a nice expensive car, but is that something that it's a priority right now?
Sure.
I'm 32. Cars will always be newer, faster, and better in years to come.
Yeah.
I can always get a nicer car whenever I want it to. Right now, in which season of my life I am in. And right now I'm in the season of my life that I want not only to build my house behind the kingdom of God, but also build God's kingdom here on earth, And what I mean with that is I'm in the journey of being even more generous with the things that I do, even more involved in helping others, in ways that are not only financially, but also trying to accommodate my schedule and my businesses in a way that, okay, now I can actually go out and help with my time, and sit down, I don't know, go to a school and sit down and talk about how kids can build a business, I don't know, things like that. But it's a difficult question to fully answer because at the same time, I think that the only one that knows our heart, I can be saying this and
lying through your teeth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I could be lying and I can be saying this because there's a camera in front of me and
Right.
It sounds good. But ultimately, it's about knowing when you go to bed every night where your heart is and what are the things that you are actually chasing.
Yeah.
And for me, being honest is I'm not chasing nothing more than what I have, but I'm chasing to serve God in better ways.
Yeah.
Being more I don't know, I used to love wearing watches. You and I spoke about this, and I used to have a crazy watch collection, and it got to a point that I sold all my watches, and it's not because I think that watches are evil, but it's okay,
for you in that moment.
In that moment, I was idolizing them.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I had to get rid of. But then also the other part is, what can I do with this money instead of, and I'm talking about money because the watches have monetary value, but what can I do with this money instead of putting it on my wrist?
Yeah.
What can I do? Can I open a business and employ 10 people? Can I open a business and, or can I open a foundation and help these many people? Like, I think that the Christian mentality around money should be more around not what I can buy because it's my hard work. I'm not going to go out there and buy a new car because I earn it and I work hard of it. Is understanding that whatever you have comes from God, and because it comes from God, our first obligation should be to, okay, before I buy these that I want, what can I do?
Yeah.
And if there's something that you can do, go ahead and do it.
You can, if you like, the mentality is, if I can afford a $100,000 Tesla, I can afford a $30,000 Hyundai and use the rest for the kingdom.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that way, and also I want to make clear that that's not something, because I heard these, like, if you do that, then God will keep blessing you. Or, It's like, we need to stop also seeing relationship with God in a way like, oh, God, I will do this, so then you can do X, Y, and Z for me. Like, the way I see it is like, if the $100,000 is all that God is giving me, I'm okay in driving the $30,000 Hyundai and doing something for the kingdom with the rest and taking care of that rest because I am good. I don't need the Tesla to feel better about myself.
Yeah. Not I am good in the sense of I'm a good person. He meant I'm good as in I'm okay.
Yes. No, definitely.
Because I don't want
definitely.
people. But and I like that you said that because it is very prevalent. The whole be generous so that God can keep blessing you, and it's like no. You're generous with what you have because God gave it to you in the first place. Mm-hmm. And if tomorrow He decides to tank all your businesses,
then you have to.
Then you're generous with what you have next. It's not about like
it's a tough topic because people usually don't want to think. And you and I had a conversation about this. Like, people don't want to think about God taking from us. We like to think about God like God is always giving to us.
It's almost like they haven't read the book of Job.
Correct. And like, or Ecclesiastes too.
Or Ecclesiastes.
I love, like, you told me about Ecclesiastes the first time, and you said, like, it's a very depressing book. And I read it, and it's depressing, but it's actually one of my favorite books in the Old Testament so far.
Because it's depressing on the surface.
It's depressing on the surface.
When you start studying it.
Exactly. What you just said is it's depressing for the people. If you want to know if you're a worldly people, go and read Ecclesiastes. If you read Ecclesiastes and you get depressed, I believe that it's kind of like unveiling that you are still very attached to the things of this world. Because Ecclesiastes, to me, it opened up my eyes to be like, look, at the end of the day, let's take away the word meaningless, but like, because that's the word that the book uses. But at the end of the day, it's like nothing is more important than meeting your creator at the end of the journey. Nothing is more important than God, and that the fact that God created you and that God gave you life. Nothing is more important than that. Everything else is just attachments to you. Everything else is just accessories that we put in our.
And they can come and go however they.
So it's like, that's kind of the way I see now, and I see it now not because I have a very blessed life. Sometimes I even ask myself, like, Lord, how would I actually don't ask the Lord, I ask myself, is like, how would my relationship with God be if I receive terrible news next week? How would my relationship, and I do ask those questions to myself just to test me. And even though I might be deceiving myself, because I might be saying, like, no, I will still be faithful and I will still be doing the things that I'm doing today, that I don't know. But what I do know is that I will do my best every single day to keep seeking and going back to Him. And that's what we can do, and ask Him to guide us all the time, with much or with little, like that same passage of Luke 19:10-27 talks like, he who is good with little will be good with much.
Yeah, if you're faithful in the little, you can. Yeah.
So,
Well, because it's because of the work ethic. So you were saying you're a disciplined person, and we had a conversation months ago where you were like, "Why do I have this, and why do some people don't?" And it's because God established certain laws of the world that work. I read Proverbs. The wisdom in Proverbs works generally if you're a Christian or not, right? So if you're somebody that says, okay, I want to make the national team of rugby of whatever, I want to be a professional rugby player. Well, I got to work hard. You worked hard and you got there. I want to start a business. I want this business to succeed. I can't just, God, make this business succeed and fall. You got to work. Whether you're a Christian or not, if you follow certain laws of be diligent, be disciplined, and work, you're going to get results. That's why you have people that are super buff and they're not Christian, and you have Christians that aren't super buff, right? Because it's a rule. If you work out and eat right, your body will look a certain way. If you're disciplined and live your life in a certain way, and you spend money in certain ways and you don't spend money in certain ways, your bank account is going to look in certain ways, whether you're Christian or not. Now, is there a factor of like God putting his hand in, allowing certain things to work? Sure. But generally speaking, if you work hard to make a business succeed, that business is probably going to succeed. So that's the law behind it. If you're faithful in the little, you'll be faithful in the much. Because when you have little and you're working hard and you're doing things right, when you have a lot, you're more than likely going to keep working hard. So, and I think that's, if anything, out of our entire conversation, what I've gained in our relationship and what I'd love for people to gain is to see that, like, yes, you came to Christ, you're a Christian, your heart has changed. God has transformed your heart. Before you were doing it for vain reasons, but the work ethic has remained the same. Now, your work ethic now is aimed at other things, pushed by another propellant or another reason.
I would say that my work ethic now has actually maybe increased in the fact that now even the things like, for example, we were talking before the podcast about this situation that one of my businesses is going through, that 2 people quit and now I have to kind of like go in and do it. Like, I'm not going to lie, when it happened, I was kind of like, well, I don't have time to do it, like, I'm not going to do it, this and that. But then, I started praying and spending time with the Lord. And one of the things that came to me that gave me conviction is like, one of the things that I've been praying a lot about is like, okay, Lord, I'm not going to keep trying to do things my way. I do it your way. And then this happens. And now my way is, no, I'm not going to go. I'll do it whenever I have time. Like, it's not my main source of income. Like, I'm not going to do it. But then the Holy Spirit, the conviction in my heart started coming in, and it's like, hold on, okay, it's not your main source of income, but it's a family business. So your family, mom, your extended family, mom, dad, and sister depend on that business. And you're the only one that is here. And they can't do it. They can't do what you do. Like, they can't do what you do. And you need to step in. And these happen. Things happen because God allows them to happen. And you need to step in because that's not what Ignacio would do, but that's what God would do. That's what Jesus would do. Like, you asked Jesus many times to intervene in your own problems. So how are you going to ask Jesus to intervene in your own problems, but you are not willing to intervene in a problem that it's kind of yours, but it's also from other people? So, like, that actually gave me a different work ethic now, that it's like, okay, even if there are things that I don't enjoy doing, you have to do if they are like part of what you have to do. So I would say that I even have a better work ethic, a better drive, and that doesn't mean that every day I wake up and I have like 100% energy to go out my day. Sometimes I wake up and I'm like, okay, Lord, let's go.
I ain't got it today, but let's go.
Let's go. Like, I don't know how I'm going to pull this day through, but let's go. And then to that, you have to attach, relationship issues. We all have them. family issues, like there's always a brother or a sister from
Yeah.
wife or husband's side that is causing issues, or in-laws or whatever. So like life is complicated.
Yeah.
Life is complicated. But if we seek the kingdom first,
And I guess this will kind of be like the closing question. You have a whole bunch of stuff you're doing, you're running. There's your Amazon business, the family business, the podcast that you guys have, which I'll give you some space to talk about that. The podcast that you guys have, Pursuing Faith with Alana and Ignacio. And then there's some also other plans that we've talked about that are in the air still, kind of, that are still working, both like ministry-wise and financial stuff, just adding more businesses onto your plate, plus your wife's business. What have you guys done in the home to make it like an anchor and like a, hey man, when I step into this space that I'm in, with these people that live in here with me, what have you guys done in your home as a family, as a husband, wife, with your kids, to be like, I can rest here. This is an anchor. This is a safe space. This is a home.
As I said, like chasing God constantly, like making time for that, like even listening to worship music. Like when you get like to your house and maybe you have, like yesterday, I walked into my house and my head was spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. Like my son was papi all over the place. I was not even focused on my wife or anything. And we just started playing worship music, and just by listening to worship music and start singing worship music, and then you have my son and my daughter singing with us, and that just kind of like disarm you, know, and now you are like resting, to me it's very hard to rest because a lot of things rest in my shoulders. I have a personality that I like to carry people or things, not in a way that I have a savior complex or anything like that. No, not in that way. I genuinely like enjoy helping, people and things to grow. So that's definitely heavy, especially when you are dealing with other stuff and then you have your own stuff. But I think that chasing the Lord and having my eyes focused on Him is definitely something that calms me down. Definitely when I feel like these, I notice myself, maybe I'm not reading my Bible as much, I am not making that time to sit down and fully read my Bible. But there's other things, that you can do to disarm yourself, like I just said, like listening to worship music, like, having a conversation with a Christian friend, going to life groups or to Elevate You, like we do, like those moments in the day are moments where like you completely can disarm yourself and you know that he's guarding you. So.
And you were saying holding stuff on your shoulders, like that's like this whole, when we started the podcast, the whole concept of provider, men are called to be providers, protectors, and priests. I was going through in my life where, like, I wasn't saying it, but I guess in my mind or in my heart, it was that's my responsibility. Since God calls us to be that, it's my responsibility to be that. And what I've learned recently, and this might help you, is that we're only called to be the providers, protectors, and priests in the sense to shadow the perfect provider, protector, and priest. And it's more of a transitional thing, right? So I'm called to bear the weight of the issues of my family for like a second as I then give it to God. So like your family comes and gives it to you so that then you can go, God, here, take care of this. Help me. You bear the weight of it. And I think that's not a thing that happens either easily for some of us, and that's not a thing that happens permanently for some of us. Some of us wake up every morning wanting to, I got it. And it's a decision, it's a verb, it's an action to every morning be like, no, God, you'll carry the weight. I'll do the work you've called me to do. You're in
You know,
charge of that.
that's crazy how you said that, because that's something that through my prayers, I pray every morning. Like I have a cold plunge, so every morning I go a cold plunge, and I don't know why cold plunging and praying is the moment that I connect the deepest with God. Because I don't know, because maybe it is because I'm in such a weak situation, like the cold is freezing, that like the only thing that can keep me inside is my prayer with God. You know, like it's the only thing that can keep me inside there for the time that I have to be there. But one of the things that he's been putting in my heart is because I've been praying about that. I've been praying like the way that I'm caring for a lot of people, bro. Like a lot of people depend on me, not just family wise, like employees. It's a lot of weight, you know, and the way it's in such a way that, going back to your question about like having material stuff and being a Christian, and to me it's like a lot of the things that I couldn't process back then was the fact that, I don't care about the people that work for me, because at the end of the day, it's a relationship that, yes, they're working, but I am giving them a salary, you know? So like, if tomorrow I have to fire somebody, they shouldn't be upset, like whatever time they put in, you know? And now it's my mindset changed so much that it's like, I don't only have to provide for my family, but I need to make sure that things run for the people that depend on me, because the people that depend on me have been placed under my leadership, because God wants me to steward whatever I have. So it's my responsibility. I can't just make decisions so irrationally or not processing them. Like, and I'm talking about decisions like investing or making a purchase, you know, like doing things like that. Like now I do not only have to think about my family, but I have to think about all these people. Yeah. And I've been praying about that. And one of the things that God's been putting in my heart is exactly what you just said. Is like, just leave it up to me. Like, offload this weight onto me. Yeah. Like, I'm giving you the job to carry it for them. Yeah. But you just offload it for me. And the fact that you've now just said it, and I literally prayed this morning about that, and I've been praying literally about that a whole week now. But I was praying about that, and in part of my prayer, like that was the message that came back to me. And now you saying it again, it's actually a proof that, you know. And a lot of the stuff we've talked about today, me and Ignacio have a personal relationship. A lot of the times we've talked about today, and a lot of the questions I've asked, we've talked about in our own personal life. I can be honest with you, we haven't spoken about this prayer that you were talking about this past week. We haven't. So that's God. No, yeah, definitely, bro. Definitely. So, bro, I wanted to thank you. We wanted to thank you for coming on. Thank you so much. In reality, this really is like a not, I don't want to call it charity, but against the current podcast and where you guys are, like you didn't need to come here, bro. You didn't need to come here, but thank you. That's a part, bro. I'm here because I wanted to. I'm not doing any charity. I know, that's why I didn't call it that. I love what you're doing. Yeah. What you guys are doing. Yeah. I'm so happy to be here. I'm thankful to be here. For me to, I know that you and I spoke about this a lot, but the fact that we're able to share these and maybe talk a little bit more in depth without kids running around. That's because if it's either on the phone or in person, there's always a kid screaming somewhere. So I think it was good, and it was a blessing for the soul and the heart. Definitely. I did want to give you some time now for whatever it is that you can talk about. Yeah, we know there's some things happening that maybe you can't talk about it now, but whatever you have that you might want to let some of the people that do listen to us know. So that you have, me and my wife have a podcast called Pursuing Faith. We started the podcast after we gave our life to Christ. Yeah. And the purpose of the podcast is to share, again, our living testimony as we could walk in Christ, every day. Don't listen to the podcast thinking that I'm going to like these people are gonna teach me theology. No. It's more of like you're letting people in to the process of you guys growing. Correct. Yes. Yeah. And also it's kind of like giving a testimony that you know, the name says it,
Pursuing faith.
It's like faith is something that we have to build and work on every day.
Yeah.
It's not something that just because we give our life to Christ is going to come to us. You know, it's very easy, and the Bible talks about this. It's very easy to lose ourselves from Christ, you know, especially in the world that we live today.
Yeah. Very easy to get distracted.
So faith is something that we need to pursue every day, and it's a podcast that it's literally a conversation between me and my wife, and we touch different topics every episode. We have some exciting things coming up, but I can't say much yet.
Yeah.
We'll see if you can come with me. You need to see.
I'm gonna try and see if I can make that happen.
Because that would be pretty cool. Because again, like we can get a lot of insight on how to keep building your podcast and podcasts in general. And then we have a foundation, small foundation, nothing big yet. We're still working on things, how to make it more active, you know, to keep working and helping people come to Christ. Yeah. And that's
good, bro.
Yeah.
Do you have a website?
We have a website, pursuingfaith.com, but the website, the website, you can go to the website, check it out. You have access to the podcast, and then you have access to the foundation, and we have some merch there that all the proceeds that we sell through the website go to the foundation.
Nice. Then you have the Pursuing Faith Instagram?
Yeah, Pursuing Faith Instagram.
He doesn't have a personal Instagram?
I don't have a personal Instagram.
That's one of the best decisions I've ever seen, and I'm trying to build myself to do the same.
I mean, it works out for me because my wife, she has a pretty big Instagram following, and
she kind of runs the
thing. Another reason why I don't have an Instagram, and I don't want to get into this, but I don't have an Instagram because when I was going through, part of the things that I would chase a lot when I was going through this prior Christ life was like Instagram fame, you know, and that's a topic for a different thing. But it was it's been like 2 years. No,
we're definitely gonna have you back to keep talking about
2 years that I'm off Instagram, and it's been the best thing that I've done.
Nice. So you can find him and his wife and the podcast on Pursuing Faith.
Pursuing Faith on YouTube. On YouTube, Pursuing Faith, and then the website, and then
we can link all their stuff in the description of the video. Bro, thank you.
Thank you, bro.
God bless you and your family, and we love that you were here, guys. Remember, check out the coffee.
I'm going to buy some.
So
it's good.
I'm gonna call him a coffee sommelier.
It's good.
I'm gonna call him a coffee sommelier. He's gonna say no, but he did a course to smell
to
taste coffee. So he says he likes it. Regenerate coffee.
New flavor too, right?
This is the new flavor.
New farm.
Yes, new farm. They're getting it from a different place, so there's different flavor notes. You were saying you were tasting you're smelling the raspberry.
Raspberry.
Yeah.
It's good. I'm going to buy some for you.
Yeah. You can use ATC Pod 10. Huh?
User code.
ATC Pod 10.
I'm going to.
It gives you 10% off, and it kind of helps us over here, you know? Helps support the podcast over here. Forged by Fire, listen, if you love fantasy fiction, that type of stuff, but you're seeing that the modern fiction genre, I don't know if you know this, but the modern fiction genre in worldly stuff is super pushing LGBT, gender politics type of stuff.
You need to do an episode on Stephen King. Stephen King?
Really? I have heard nothing about Stephen King. I heard something happened.
You need to.
Okay, we will. I will. I'll look into it. I'll research and I'll do it. But if you're a Christian that loves fantasy and you want to enjoy a fantasy story that doesn't have any of that stuff that doesn't honor God, Forged by Fire. I'm working on book 2. So, and then we have a merch store, atcpod.com. You can go to where merch is. I'm working on getting some physical merch so that we can actually show you guys.
And you should wear it.
And actually wear it on the episode. But we do have a merch store. Go check it out there. And that's basically it. Pursuing Faith. Thank you guys. Love you guys. Peace out.